Hello everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. So I know most of you who watch my videos are probably subscribed to my channel, but in case you don't know who I am, I'm going to start introducing myself in these videos and kind of what this channel is about and what my background is. My name is Tyler Smith. I am a Western ceremonial magic practitioner. Not on the higher levels per se. I am more familiar with like the Golden Dawn rituals, like the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, the Lesser Invoking Ritual of the Pentagram, the Middle Pillar, the Lesser Hexagram Ritual of the Pentagram, or I'm sorry, the Lesser Hexagram Ritual. But anyway, LVX, all of those kinds of ceremonies and rituals. I've been teaching on here for quite a while, and I show you how to perform them and go through them. But really my roots go back to music and being involved in music and meeting unique people, you know, through those situations. I have a video about my musical experiences, and it's also about Pythagoras. So if you want to go back and check that out, that tells you my musical story a little bit. And then kind of my introduction to the occult really and esotericism was through Freemasonry, which I joined back in, I want to say 2014 is when I became an entered apprentice. So that's kind of my roots in occultism, is Masonic lore. I'm well read in a lot of Masonic texts. I've gone through, you know, a lot of the degrees and such, been Worshipful Master before. So I kind of have that background, and then I slowly started to learn about like the Golden Dawn and the rituals that they perform. And then it was, you know, a few years later, I started those practices in about 2016. Had a lot of life situations happen. Some of those situations are definitely, you know, my journey, my path, my personal path on the tree of life. And now I'm really being called to, you know, start talking about the flip side. We're going to start talking about the left-hand path a little bit more because I came across a YouTube channel called Universal Mastery. And those of you who work with, you know, these rituals where you invoke angels all the time, you know, you're working on your light body, all of these things, you can also become an attraction. This is something they don't talk about a lot in these occult orders, is when you do like the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, it lights you up on the astral plane. And you really need to make sure that you're geared or focused towards, you know, Christ consciousness, if that light path is really what you want to walk. You need to really want to be a servant, because when you reach Kether, as Jeremiah says on Universal Mastery, you know, you kind of become the ultimate servant. And you kind of start to feel that way. It's like the lonely mountaintop kind of vibe, you know. And you realize that the world is kind of just taking from you. And, you know, it's, you know, sometimes, at least I've come to the realization that I've given up a lot. I've done a lot of self-sacrifice, you know, for other people. But I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm realizing that's not my true polarity. You know, I'm more, you know, veered towards the negative polarity, which isn't in itself evil. But instead of, you know, releasing your energy out, if you feel drained all the time, you know, from things such as the LBRP, this could be, you know, why. It does protect you, you know, in this protective field, keeps the angels around you, but at the same time, it drains your life force energy. So it's going to make you feel empty. It's going to deplete you. And the left-hand path, or working with, you know, the quote-unquote lower spirits, which are really just older primordial, you know, entities that some say the angels are evolved from the demons, so the demons are kind of more the older versions of angels. I heard that somewhere, and I'm not sure where that was. But anyway, yeah, you just come to the realization that there's more. There's another path, you know. And if you really want to understand the occult in its entirety, you can't just focus on the light side, because you're going to end up becoming trapped. You're just going to end up becoming, you know, a source for something else. It could be dangerous, and you need to learn to work with both forces, is what I'm learning. So right now, you know, everything in my personal life is kind of, you know, intense right now at the moment. So what I'm doing is just accumulating knowledge and information, which is mostly what this channel is about. You know, I'm not a guru, I'm not a master, but I have a lot of information I've picked up from reading so many different things, from, you know, being involved in Masonry and having unique life experiences, you know, particularly, you know, in being a musician and being able to travel a little bit and seeing what kinds of people and what kinds of places are out there, and that there's more than just exists in your everyday matrix life. You know, you really kind of have to escape the matrix at some point and really go and see what's out there. I made a decision probably back around, 2013, maybe somewhere in there. I left college. I had this feeling that I wasn't supposed to be there. And I listened to that soul call, I listened to the voice within. And ever since then, all these opportunities opened up for me. It was like I had stepped into the portal of a new world, And Universe B is an interesting topic too. We're going to get into that a little bit as well. I'm kind of jumping all around at the moment, but you kind of get where I'm coming from. I just wanted to do a little introduction, kind of summarize, what I do on here. I'm a distributor of information. As I'm learning and growing and adding information to my personal practices as well. But I'm not a master or a teacher in that regards as to where I've done all the work and worked with all the spheres, in their entirety. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and learning about different aspects of myself, and now learning more about the negative polarity, the darker side, which leads us to the topic of this video. This is going to be about Lilith. We talked about Lilith a little bit in the past 2 videos, but we didn't really get to go into much detail. This is going to be a multi-part, series, just like the angels were. We're going to get into Lilith a bit, because this archetype is very important. There's a lot of, if you want to hear about the different variations of the stories of Lilith, they're all kind of similar, they're all kind of the same. I recommend you just go on YouTube and start looking up the different versions. We're going to get into more of the Kabbalistic lore, the Kabbalistic knowledge, knowledge pertaining to the fall itself and the tree of life, rather than just... there's a lot of interesting lore even on... I found in Morg Official's YouTube video. Go and check his channel out and subscribe to him. Morg Official, I highly recommend his channel, and Universal Mastery channel. Both of those channels are great. He has a video on the secret daughter of Eve, which I started to watch, and I haven't watched very far, but I'm going to watch the rest of that. There's Lilith, which is the first wife of Adam, and apparently there's like a third wife of Adam. There's Nama, which actually might be the second wife, but there's like 5 different wives or something. If you look on YouTube, they're going to pop up, pretty quick. If you just type in Lilith, you should find some of those they're like sisters of Lilith. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the notes. This is not going to be a very long video, and I will have to cut it off like in, about 20-25 minutes or so, because I do work in about 40 minutes, so I'd like to give myself a little bit of time before I go into work. Thankfully, it's only 4 hours today. I just don't understand how humans are so mechanical in their operations. It's like... And that's really what the left-hand path seeks to destroy, is all this artificial consciousness, which isn't even people really having conscious awareness. They're really just literally programs just being run in this matrix, and they cannot even conceive of it or perceive of it, which is really weird. Of course, we have the normal Kabbalistic tree. If you turn it upside down, it's the tree of death, or the Klipothic tree. And I also started drawing my own. I'm filling it in with the names and such as I'm learning more about them. I'm trying to, memorize all the spheres and their correlations, their correspondences, and what they mean in regards to their, the opposite pole on the tree of life. So you've got Malkut. So really it would be kind of like this, because the Lilith sphere resides within Malkut. So at this top, you have, I think the sphere... I've seen the sphere called sometimes Nama, which is like the sister of Lilith, and then sometimes it's just called Lilith, the sphere itself, which of course is the opposite pole of Malkut, but also resides kind of in Malkut. And this is a different aspect of Lilith than the Lilith that resides in the next sphere, which corresponds to Yesod, which is Gamaliel, I think. I don't know if it's pronounced Gamaliel or Gamaliel. So of course, 10 and then 9, same as Malkut, Yesod, Lilith or Nama, and Gamaliel or Gamaliel. And then Lilith also rules over Gamaliel. Nama is called that sphere, or the Lilith sphere, is called the Queen of the Night, and also correlates to Asaya, the material realm. This is where you start to get into the world of formation with Gamaliel, and Gamaliel also is called the Obscene Ones. So you have the Queen of the Night and the Obscene Ones. So those are kind of the first two spheres that I'm coming to an understanding of. I'm starting to learn and understand them archetypally. Something that we can get into more detail on as well in later videos, which I'm not going to be able to cover too much in this one. I didn't write it in my notes, but when you start to work with the Klipothic spheres, I read, you're going to, she's the one who initiates you or gives birth to a new life in which you start your journey through those spheres. And that's where the initiate purposefully goes into Universe B. The initiate isn't just sucked into Universe B through Da'at. That can happen even through watching things like music videos and stuff, There's all these ritualistic things set up to suck your soul into the Klipothic realm unknowingly, and then you kind of get screwed. But if you go in there with a knowledge of, what you're doing, you need to go through the backside of the Klipothic tree, not the front side. The front side is just all the bad, negative stuff. But the backside is where the power and the knowledge lies. It's the backside, Universe B of the Klipothic realm. And then that's where the Dragon of Amalek resides. But there's the symbolism with caves. When you start to, really go down that path, you're going to start to, because the cave represents the womb. It's the womb into the new life. You could be in the woods and you come across, some open pathway or something that you never noticed before, or you notice a cavern, and that might be the place where you start doing your performances. I think for Jeremiah Schwartz on Universal Mastery, he found like an abandoned house next to where he was living at the time, and it just was it acted as the portal or the gateway to this Klipothic realm where he started his initiations there. So very interesting symbology and correspondences there. So let's go ahead and get into it, since this isn't going to be too long. Lilith represents the dark feminine, of course. On the Tree of Life, this would be equated with Boaz, which if you're looking at it, on most charts it's going to be on the left. But really, the pillar is going to be on your right, because it corresponds to the right brain hemisphere, whereas Hokmah, or the divine masculine, corresponds to the left. At least that's how I understand it. So you should really be facing the front of the tree, and then, the white pillar becomes on your left. This is my left, and then the black pillar becomes on your right. Otherwise, you'd be facing into the tree and looking into it and being sucked in the other side. That's how I've come to understand it. I think that's, how it's being referred to. If I'm wrong, please comment. And I've gotten also some weird comments on my YouTube channel that it's really people just not knowing what they're talking about, or they're just ignorant, and I've had to kind of delete those comments because they're just not well versed in esoterica. They don't know, they're not studying, they're just superstitious. And of course we have the Catholic Church, not the Catholic tradition itself, but what the Catholic Church became to kind of like blame for a lot of that stuff. So anyway, and we'll get into more on that later, because the Catholic Church kind of demonized, helped to demonize all the demons, because demon really comes from daemon, which means friendly spirit, which is kind of ironic. So Lilith represents the dark feminine, Boaz, the pillar that we just showed, which is the female divine force, and has been linked with the dark side, or quote unquote evil, or the left side. The masculine's often considered the right hand side, or the benevolent or the good, and then the female side is the evil, and that's negative polarity. It's not that it's good or evil, it's just they have different functions. Positive polarity is more outgoing, it's more creative, and then negative is more it's a little bit more service to self, and it's more it pulls in, it's more vampiric energy, which isn't bad, it's just how things work. It's not inherently good or evil. These are just functions which exist within the universe. And you can use them for quote-unquote good or bad. If you want to learn more about where evil comes from, and the whole debates on good and evil, you need to read Thomas Carlson's Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic. That's where a lot of this information is coming from. So I recommend you go and read that whole book. It's wonderful. The serpent in the garden potentially is Lilith, so that's a common theme as well. Sometimes the bottom half of her body is like a serpent. So some say that the serpent in the garden was Lilith that, coerced or tempted Adam and Eve to eat the fruit, which is knowledge, or da'at. Sometimes the serpent is considered to be Samael, which is the husband of Lilith. And these are the negative polarities of Adam and Eve. Some say they were created at the same time, and then others say that they're, just a later perversion. So there's so many different Kabbalistic accounts and ancient just texts in general. She was originally a Sumerian demon of storms. And I did have an interesting experience where I was listening to, a meditation of Lilith, and I was sitting there real quietly, and then it just started storming in the middle of the video, and it kind of, shocked me a little bit. And I noticed that correlation with, with Lilith. And what you're gonna start realizing is that all of these archetypes, these characters that we're talking about, Lilith, the angels, all of these, the demons, they're things that exist within you. Lilith is an aspect of yourself, and it's not, I'm not even saying this lightly, when you don't even have to sometimes verbalize the names of these things. If you're just focusing on these energies, or if you're like saying them in your mind, they can still manifest in your external reality. They'll let you know that they're showing up. And if you take this energy within yourself, don't be so scared of it. Learn to integrate it and, all of these things into your psyche. These are parts of us. So you really can take this energy and have some interesting experiences with it if you embody the Lilith archetype into yourself. It's a dark divine feminine. And it's good to work on our feminine sides. We all have mixtures of both. Me personally, I have a high feminine energy in my chart. I have like a 9 feminine energy, and then like a 2 or 3 masculine. So it just means I'm more of that polarity. It resonates with me, and I've talked about that a lot, like in previous videos. The higher beings, anyway, are a meshing of the two, anyway. Of these two masculine and feminine principles. A highly evolved being has, a lot of balance in both. She's often depicted with the serpent's body beneath the waist. We just said that. And she coils down from the tree of knowledge and tricks man into eating the fruits of knowledge. We all know this was a part of the plan anyway. So, because man needed to be illuminated. Some say the serpent is the good one, and that this demiurgic, solar deity is not the good guy, and he's really just trying to keep man in prison. Maybe this has some connection with the Anunnaki. There's so many different stories that kind of recount the same thing, but with slightly different concepts. And I see nowadays more and more old texts making their way to the surface, that are teaching us more and more about the true stories of what happened, and not just the edited versions that we've been told about. She originally corresponds to Da'at, of course, which is the hidden sphere of knowledge. It's the 11th Sephirah, which is the portal or the gateway, which is why it aligns, that number resonates with the left-hand path quite a bit. And remember, it's all really one path. Even if you go right or left, it loops around. And that also has correspondence with the serpent surrounding the Garden of Eden. It's actually there to protect and keep things out. It's like a barrier, but as soon as it went into the garden and started to, change things within, then that protective barrier was kind of dispelled. We'll talk more about that probably in the next video, because I'm not going to be able to get too much farther. Da'at sounds uncannily familiar to death. Da'at. It's the apple, and if you look at the Apple logo, it's the bitten apple, of course. Father, mother, daughter, and son, we see this quadruple, effect in Kabbalah. So the daughter corresponds to Da'at, which was originally a sphere on the original tree of life. It was a part of the actual tree. It wasn't a hidden sphere, and it was always above Tiphareth. So this represented the black sun, or the real sun, the higher sun, And we've talked about that a little bit before in this Kabbalah, Kapath, and Goetic magic information. And then this is like the more the solar energy. This is the black sun, the higher consciousness light, which can't always be perceived. And then this is Tiphereth. So Da'at was the daughter, and then Tiphereth is the masculine aspect, the sun. Archangel Michael ruled over Tiphereth in the beginning, the original tree of life, and then Lucifer ruled over Da'at, and now Tiphereth reigns. The solar energy reigns, and the Da'at has gone away. It's this hidden sphere, kind of, so to speak. Da'at is also a form of the Shekinah, which is a female aspect of the divine, and we'll probably get into that definitely in the next video. A little bit more about the lighter and the darker components of the Shekinah, what that is. Lilith was created from clay. Was created independently of Adam rather than from his rib. They were made at the same time. They were supposed to be equal. And really what she wanted was just equality. She didn't want to be greater than like Adam even. She just wanted to be treated fairly. You know? And if you have a woman like Lilith, you better treat her right. Just let the woman get on top, man. What the hell is wrong with you? You know? Let them take over for a little bit. You know? That's enjoyable. You know? If you're really going to be open-minded. So this led to the argument about sex. In this instance or story, God sent the angels to force her to submit. You know, Lilith said, I'm not going to be on bottom. You know, Adam pretty much forced her to be on the bottom and would not let her on top. So, you know, she ran away from the garden. She fled. She flew, some say. Flew away. Can't blame her. Can't blame her one bit, because what a false paradise to just have this only other person in the garden and they won't treat you as an equal. So sometimes it's really hard to find that balance of complete equality. We see that with men and women today. It's like it's always this battle. It's like it's really hard to get the degrees of perfection or the polarities to match just right so that each person feels like they're being treated equally and that each has equal say and equal rights and all those things. That's been a big issue today, and I think that would go away more if people understood deeper principles, more esoteric occult principles about who we really are. If we learn the kingdom of self, we're not going to need to dominate others. We'll just allow others to come to us because we'll radiate ourselves. They'll want to have you in their life. They see you. They look up to you as something to, you know, show them the way, in a sense. So they had this argument about sex. God sent the angels to force her to submit to Adam. He sent like 3 angels. And in this version, she spoke the word, the secret name of God, Shem Ham Farash, and managed to escape. But in other versions, she basically just said that I've mated with like 1,000 demons or something like that. It's a large number. She came across... I forget which 2 demons it was in the wilderness. I may have written notes on that later on. I think I did, about which ones she actually encounters in the wilderness. I'm going to have to wrap this up and get ready for work, unfortunately. But the one thing I wanted to say is that the angels came, and then she had so many children from these demons. She had to tell them, look, I have all these children that I've mated with these other beings and had so many children. The angels say they'll kill like, you know, so many children every day for like 100 days, and it's a lot. It adds up to a lot. It might be like 1,000 children or even 10,000 or more. And she's like, well, that's fine. I'll just reproduce and make more then, so it doesn't matter to me. And that's probably part of why she comes across as this, like, in a lot of lore, she's considered like, she consumes like infants and stuff. So there's this whole darker aspect with that and such. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there, because I gotta get ready. So we're gonna leave it when we pick up in the next video. Let me go ahead and make a note here. We're gonna pick up in the details of that story where the angels are coming to her and she is mated with all these demons, and we'll leave it there. And she basically says, you know, I'm not only can I not come back to the garden because, you know, I wouldn't want to because I've mated with all these demons, but I wouldn't anyway, you know, because I was treated unfairly. And so the angels go back to Adam, and they say that they're gonna, you know, kill off one of her children every so many days. I forget what the numbers are. But yeah, it's pretty wild. And then they make Eve for Adam. We'll get into more details in the next video. So my voice is cracking today. I think it's just because I'm on the go today. I'm really I wanted to get a video in before I went into work, and yep, I could probably use some, you know, hydrate myself, use some water before I go in. So my throat's a little dry, but thank you all for watching, for being a part of this channel. Make sure you please subscribe. If you're already subscribed and you watch my videos, thank you for being a part of this. You mean a lot to me. You're basically like your real family, because we're connecting through consciousness. We're choosing to resonate in the similar frequency of truth, light, true darkness, which is true light. We're gonna illuminate all these things and make all things known and manifest. And thank you for being on this journey. Make sure to subscribe, like my videos, and ring the notification bell if you want to be notified of new content. So peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you, and until next time.